culture, technology, and physical space. Let's start off with physical space. Physical space is exactly what it sounds like. It is the walls, the ceiling, it might be the art that hangs on the walls, it might be how the office is designed. All of these things are a part of the physical workspace. The physical environment contributes to 30% of the overall employee experience. So 30% of your employee's overall experience comes from the space in which employees work. 30%. Now, there's been a lot of really interesting research that's been done on the physical space. And a couple people from MIT and Harvard, Ed Schein from MIT and a couple people from Harvard, they did some research on this, and they found that the physical space actually acts as a symbol of your company. It acts as a symbol that represents what your organization stands for. Now, there's also been a lot of debate around open floor plan versus closed floor plan. You know, which one should we have? Do we want open or closed? But both of those arguments are wrong. So research from a company in the UK known as Leesman, they found out that during a typical day, an employee will perform up to 21 different types of activities during the course of a typical day. And so what the world's top companies are doing is they don't just pick one floor plan or another floor plan. They create an organization that has multiple floor plans in it. I mean, there are some companies that have 10, 15, 20 different floor plans. You might have collaboration spaces, you might have quiet places, you might have some modern-looking cubicles, some conference rooms, some like little isolation areas, some places where you can relax, other places where you can learn. Different environments depending on the activity and the work that the employee does. So again, physical space, 30% of the overall experience for your people.
Hey, really quick, do you want to hear something crazy? Over 96% of the people who watch these videos on this channel are not subscribed. Why don't we fix that? If you want to get access to more awesome videos just like this one, make sure to hit subscribe so you'll get notified when they get released.
The second environment is technology. Technology is also 30% of the overall employee experience. And technology refers to the hardware, the software, the devices, the apps, all these different things that you use to get your job done are a part of technology. And oftentimes we assume that technology is just an IT thing, but it's not. Technology, when it breaks down, very much becomes a human problem. I actually remember a couple of years ago, I went to go speak to a big financial institution in Europe. And after I gave my talk to their executives and to their employees, I had the opportunity to meet with some of their employees one-on-one. And I would interview all of these employees, and they would all tell me the same thing. They all told me, we love our corporate culture, we love our physical space, we all want a new job. And I thought, wait a minute, why would you want a new job if you love your culture and you love your physical space? It's because it was a technology problem. Employees didn't have flexible work. They were constantly duplicating each other's work. It was very frustrating for them to get their jobs done. And as a result, they started to get disengaged from the company and ultimately wanted to find another place to work. So technology, when we don't think about it, very much becomes a human problem. And technology is the central nervous system of your company. If you think about the future of work, a lot of the concepts that we talk about, AI, artificial intelligence, real-time recognition and feedback, communication and collaboration at scale, all of these things, they are not possible without having technology in place. So technology matters a lot. Now, of course, it's impossible to mention technology without in some way talking about artificial intelligence and jobs, and there's a lot of worry all over the world that technology and automation is going to take away jobs from people everywhere. So I'm actually curious, how many of you in the room are worried about technology and artificial intelligence? Put your hands up high. How many of you are worried about it? Okay, just a couple people. How many of you are not worried about it at all? You think everything's going to be just fine? I'm not seeing a lot of hands going up. Okay, couple people. What about the rest of you? Are you kind of in between? Not sure? Okay, fair enough. So, how do we help make sure that our jobs will be safe? So, I think there are two ways that a jobs apocalypse could happen. The first scenario is that if executives at companies all over the world come together and they say, you know what, we don't like people, let's just invest in technology only. And they kick all the employees out and they decide that they only want to use artificial intelligence, only want to use technology. That's one possible scenario that might happen. But thankfully, we're not seeing that today. In fact, a lot of organizations are using artificial intelligence and technology to help people. And one of my favorite stories of this comes from Accenture. Big global company. They recently automated 17,000 jobs around the world, but they didn't lose a single human being. The jobs that they automated were in finance. These were number crunchers. These were people who were just calculating numbers, crunching data, and then presenting that data to people. And instead, what Accenture did is they took these 17,000 people and they upskilled and they retrained them. And they said, instead of just calculating numbers, we want you to help our clients understand what these numbers mean. We want you to be more like strategic advisors to our clients. And so what we're starting to see is a lot of that. Organizations using AI and artificial intelligence to upskill and retrain their employees. Now, the second potential danger of how jobs might be lost depends on us as individuals, as human beings. You see, for a long time, we have always assumed that you could just rely on your educational institution or on your company to teach you everything you need to know to be successful. And we always thought that what you learn in school, that'll last with you forever. And if there's something new that you need to learn, your company will teach it to you. But we can't just rely on schools and on our companies to teach us everything we need to know to be successful. It ultimately comes down to you as a person, you as an individual, to make sure that you are learning how to learn. Nobody's going to look out for you but you. So you have to constantly teach yourself new things, learn how to learn. And this is an area where I think a lot of people are struggling with. So if we want to help make sure that we are going to future-proof ourselves in the future, learning to learn is the best thing that we can do to help make sure that that happens. So again, technology, 30% of the overall employee experience. The next environment is culture. Culture refers to how we feel working for the organization. How do we feel being a part of the company? And culture, 40% of the overall employee experience. So it's a little bit more than technology, and it's a little bit more than physical space. And culture is also the hardest thing for organizations to figure out, because physical space is easy. You can see it, you can build it. Technology also, you can see it, you can build it. It's just about money and time. Culture isn't something that you can necessarily see or touch. Culture is the one thing that you feel. And as we know in our companies, the emotions are not always very easy for us to figure out. It's something that organizations struggle with a lot. But it's also the environment that has the greatest impact for companies around the world. I remember when I graduated college, and I went to school an hour south of San Francisco. And I studied economics and psychology. I double majored. I graduated with honors, and I was very, very excited to join the business world. And my first job out of college, I went to go interview for this company in Los Angeles. And when I interviewed there, they told me all these wonderful things about the company. You're going to be traveling, you're going to be meeting with executives, you're going to be loving your job. It's going to be amazing. So I took the job. And I had to drive 1.5 hours to work, 1.5 hours back from work every day. So 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, just driving. And a couple of months into my job, all I'm doing is data entry, cold calling, and PowerPoint presentations. And I'll never forget, the day that the CEO came out of his office and he says, "Jacob, I got a really important project for you. Come over here." So naturally, I got very excited. I thought, this is it. This is the moment. Something great's going to happen. And he calls me over, and he takes out his wallet, and he gives me a $10 bill, puts it in my hand. And he says, "I'm late for a meeting. I need you to go run down to Starbucks and get me a cup of coffee. And get yourself a coffee as well." And I thought, "Oh, you're so generous. Thank you very much." So I went, I got him the coffee, and in my mind, I'm thinking, "Are you crazy? This is why I worked so hard in school, is to get you a cup of coffee. I hate you. Get your own cup of coffee." But that's what I thought on the inside. On the outside, I said, "Of course, I would love to get you that cup of coffee. I hope it burns your face off." And that was one of the last full-time jobs I ever had working for anybody else around 15 years ago. And ever since then, I've been really interested and fascinated with this concept of employee experience and the future of work and leadership. So I worked for an organization that had a bad corporate culture. And there's a story that oftentimes gets told about President Kennedy in the United States. And when President Kennedy went to go visit NASA, the NASA Space Center, and he's doing a tour of the NASA Space Center, and in the middle of the tour, he sees a man walking down the hall with a broom and a bucket. And President Kennedy stops the tour, and he goes over to the man, and he says, "Hi, I'm President Kennedy. What do you do here?" And the man says, "I helped put a man on the moon." He didn't say, "I sweep the bathroom floors." He didn't say, "I restock paper towels." He said, "I helped put a man on the moon." That is a very different type of corporate culture than the one that I was a part of. And I always like to use this fun test with executives whenever I interview them. And when I sit them down one-on-one, I call it the corporate culture pill test. And I always ask all these executives the same thing. And I say, if I could bottle up what it was like to work at your company and give it to you in a pill form so that you could experience all the side effects of working for your company, would you swallow the pill? And the executives always say the same thing. Nope. So if you're not willing to swallow the corporate culture pill, then how can you ask other people to do it for you? You can't. So corporate culture, 40% of the overall employee experience. It is how you feel. And corporate culture is something that you learn. The employees who work at your organization, they learn the corporate culture from all of you, from the leaders inside of the company.